Okay, so let's talk about chapter 4, which covers scatter plots and correlation. More of like an introduction to correlation. We'll be covering it a little more deeply in chapter 5. So in this chapter's videos, we're going to cover explanatory and response variables, displaying relationships, so scatter plots, interpreting those scatter plots, adding categorical variables to scatter plots, so more like qualitative data, measuring association, that's definitely correlation, and some more facts about correlation. So in order to start to clear things up, I want to talk about what exactly is correlation in the first place. So correlation exists between two variables when higher values of one variable consistently go with higher values of the other. So that would be like this example here, this first example of positive correlation. Or when higher values of one variable consistently go with lower values of another variable. So let me go through some examples. So my favorite example of positive correlation, and this is a silly example, is ice cream sales and shark attacks. Okay, bear with me a second, gang. So as ice cream sales increase, so do shark attacks. But it's important to remember that, one doesn't cause the other. There's an underlying cause, which is the fact it's summer, right? More people want to eat ice cream because it's getting nice out. More people are swimming because it's nice out, right? So correlation is not causation, is something I'm going to talk about a lot, but that's an example of positive correlation. Negative correlation, that's when something, higher values of one consistently go with lower values of the other. That'd be negative correlation. So here's a couple examples of correlation. So there's a correlation between the variables demand for computers and the price of computers, right? As demand tends to increase, price decreases. There's also correlation between practice time and skill, right? That is, those who practice more tend to be more skilled. So let's go back to that negative correlation. So what if we did temperature? So this is the temperature getting hotter, cold, hot. And what if we did sweater sales? That would be a good example of negative correlation. So sweater sales decrease, right? Here's like $0. Here's like a lot of sweater money, sweater weather, right? So as the temperature is increasing, sweater sales go down. So that'd be like a negative correlation. When I am graphing a scatter plot, I have two different variables I am looking at. I am looking at response variables and explanatory variables. So a response variable measures an outcome of the study, and an explanatory variable explains, right? May explain, influence changes in the response variable. So when I approach my scatter diagram knowing this, so I've got my scatter plot, I've got my x-axis, right? That's our horizontal one. I've got my y-axis. And my explanatory variable is always on the x-axis. So we have our explanatory variable, and that's always going to explain a response, right? We will plot our response variable on our vertical axis. So we've got our explanatory variable and our response, right? The temperature increases and the cost of sweater, the amount of sweater sales go down. So keep some basic examples in your head. So let's look at our first example. So how would we create a scatter plot for the price and weights of diamonds, right? Do we expect the diamond price to depend on weight? Yeah, right? Like bigger diamond would be a more expensive diamond, I would think. So in this case, weight is going to be our explanatory variable. right? That's on our x-axis. And the price, well, that's going to be my response variable, right? This explains, the weight would explain the increase in price. So let's look at a scatter plot of this. So here we have the price of diamonds in dollars as our y-axis and our weight in carats. And as we can see, like if I was gonna like visualize and like draw a line through this, yeah, it definitely looks like there is some sort of relationship there. Now we need to remember that's not the only things that influence price, right? Like here's way more expensive diamond that's not even our heaviest diamond, right? So what might some of those other what other underlying variables could there be? I doubt many of you have been diamond shopping. I do teach this for college students. Doubt we've got lots of diamond purchasing in our histories. But there's another thing called color and clarity, right? Like they grade diamonds based on like how clear and perfect they are. So you might also want to look at the relationship between that and price as well, right? There's always more things to explore. So when making a scatter plot, here is our 4-step process. So the first thing, we want to state our research question of interest. So what has the greatest influence on the cost of diamonds? Is it weight? Is it price? Is it clarity? Is it cut? I don't know. We could do some really interesting research on that maybe. Then we need to plan, right? The solution to our problem is planned by plotting our variables accordingly. Then we're going to examine our scatter plot, taking notes of any of the relationships present, and conclude. And we are going to explore this step